Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
Imagine a fraud model that suddenly spikes false positives. Overnight, thousands of legitimate customers are blocked, call center volume doubles, and churn jumps. The data team points to model drift. The vendor says the model is fine, and finance asks why we're losing millions, and nobody looks at the labels. That single invisible input cascaded into a measurable business loss. If you are an executive, CEO, CDO, head of analytics, this is the kind of failure you want in your rear view, not in your board packet next quarter.
Today, I want to push one idea. Labeling is not an ops ticket. Labeling is a funded, governable product. Treat it that way and you preserve model value. Ignore it and you pay the invoice in incidents and churn. From models to measurable value, this episode is a practical playbook for executives to budget, govern, and operationalize labeling so your models get reliable, auditable inputs at scale. First, what do I mean by labels? Labels are the durable inputs that teach and validate models, the ground truth attached to examples. But they are more than annotations. Labels carry provenance. Who labeled, when, using which guideline? Freshness. Are they representative of current production data? And parity. Do training labels match the operational signal the model sees? Labels define the signal-to-noise ratio of your decisions. Get them wrong, and accuracy numbers are meaningless. Get them right, and you buy predictability.
So, how do you make labeling a product? Start with ownership. Who is accountable for label quality next quarter? Define SLAs that leaders can read, accuracy targets with acceptable variance, lead time for new labeling lanes, and coverage requirements for critical cohorts. Make labeling a funded line item in the forecast, not an ad hoc chargeback. Present label needs to finance as a decision cost. The number of decisions a label supports, the expected uplift, and the audit evidence that justifies the spend. Strategy before technology. Fund the outcome, not the tool.
Let's talk dollars briefly. Unit economics. Don't buy cost per label spreadsheets in isolation. Convert labels into cost per decision. If a label reduces a false positive that would have cost the business $500 and that label costs $5, you can justify scale. Use quality-adjusted pricing. Higher stakes lanes command higher per label rates and stricter SLIs. Forecast labeling runway. How many labels you need to sustain accuracy over the next 3 to 6 months, and set simple ROI thresholds for funding. Expected value preserved per dollar spent should exceed an agreed break-even multiple.
Sourcing. There is no one-size-fits-all. In-house teams give you domain expertise and IP control, good for sensitive or strategic lanes. Managed vendors scale quickly and can provide mature tooling, but require procurement guardrails. Verified crowds are cost-effective for high-volume, low-sensitivity tasks if you can guarantee provenance. Synthetic augmentation is useful to fill coverage gaps, not to replace human-reviewed gold. Build a decision rubric. Sensitivity of data, required provenance, scale, and expected label latency. Mix and match lanes. Don't outsource everything or build everything. Choose per decision.
Now, how do you prove label quality to the board? Adopt a small set of board-friendly SLIs. Start with label agreement. How often do labelers agree with a conservatively constructed gold set? Track inter-annotator drift. Measure how agreement changes over time. Monitor parity versus production. Do labels reflect live inputs? Capture labeling velocity, throughput per day, and detection to fix latency. How long between finding a labeling error and fixing it in the dataset? Set sampling cadence and require audit evidence before approving vendor outputs. These are the signals executives can read when deciding to fund or pause.
Procurement and contracts are where theory meets reality. Insist on provenance attestations. Vendor must record annotator IDs, timestamps, and guideline versions. Add remediation SLAs. If a sampled audit fails parity thresholds, the vendor must relabel at no charge within a fixed window. Require confidentiality clauses and dataset portability. You should be able to export labeled datasets in usable formats. Include the right to audit and independent sampling. Push legal to join the selection early. Privacy and jurisdictional constraints change sourcing options dramatically.
Operationally, build human-in-the-loop and feedback loops into production. Integrate reviewers into decision paths so high-risk predictions route for extra review. Use error budgets. Define how many mislabeled decisions you tolerate before pausing a lane. Automate sampling. Surface edge cases to labelers and to model retraining pipelines. Maintain reviewer quality controls, regular calibration sessions, performance tracking, and targeted retraining. The goal is a continuous cycle. Detect, label, retrain, and measure impact.
Governance and escalation. Make it explicit who signs funding and who signs off on model releases when labeling SLIs drift. Create change notice windows for guideline updates. They should trigger relabeling or retraining if parity is affected. Map labeling gates to release decisions. No model release without passing defined label SLIs. Define exception processes for urgent changes and require postmortems that quantify label debt and remediation cost. Accountability reduces invisible label risk.
Here's a prioritized 30-90-day pilot checklist you can use this week. Day 0 through 30. Inventory your top 3 labeling lanes by business impact. Build a conservative goal set for each and run an initial audit to measure agreement. Day 30 through 60. Pilot a sourced lane, either in-house or vendor, with explicit SLIs and sampling protocols. Track detection to fix latency and labeling velocity. Day 60 through 90. Present board-ready KPIs, a simple budget ask tied to cost per decision, and a remediation plan for any gaps. Require a funded 90-day runway before scaling beyond the pilot.
Quick summary. 3 executive actions to take now. 1. Fund labeling as a product with named ownership, SLAs, and a labeled budget line. 2. Require independent sampling and parity audits before vendor outputs are accepted. 3. Run a 30-90-day pilot with born-ready KPIs, label agreement, labeling velocity, parity versus baseline, and detection to fix latency, and use those numbers to decide scale. These steps convert invisible label debt into measurable governance and protect model value.
If you want the playbook with procurement language, sample SLAs, KPI templates, and the 30-90-day checklist in a ready-to-share format, download the Label Economy Playbook at datascience.show/labeleconomy. Use it as a starting point in your next leadership meeting, so labeling stops being an afterthought and becomes a funded capability that protects business outcomes. Thanks for listening. Make labeling a lever, not a liability. That's the difference between models and value.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.